Leonardo da Vinci was the outsider who decoded nature's machinery. In 1482, a 30-year-old artist writes to the powerful Duke of Milan, but he barely mentions painting. He promises armored wagons and portable bridges, staking his survival on machines of war he is yet to build. If the Duke calls his bluff, Leonardo faces not just rejection, but total professional ruin. 16 years later, he stands before The Last Supper, a work that redefines perspective and human emotion for all time. But he has rejected the proven durability of fresco for a new, unstable method that allows him to paint slowly. The tragedy is that his greatest triumph begins to crumble the moment it is complete, threatening to vanish before the world can fully understand it. By 1502, he is riding alongside Cesare Borgia, a ruthless warlord who murders his enemies at dinner parties. Leonardo documents the terrain with unprecedented accuracy, knowing his maps are the tools of a brutal conquest. He walks a razor's edge where his intellect is the only thing keeping him alive in a court of vipers. In the end, he leaves behind thousands of pages of notes, designs for helicopters, anatomy, and physics that will remain largely unread for centuries. He dies in France wondering if he has done enough, leaving a legacy scattered to the winds. But this lifetime of relentless inquiry began with a simple, illegitimate birth in the hills of Tuscany. The story begins in 1452 in the Tuscan village of Vinci, where a child is born out of wedlock to a peasant woman and a local notary. This illegitimacy legally bars him from university and his father's guild, effectively closing the door to any respectable career in the Republic. But this exclusion forces him to adopt a different teacher, the Book of Nature, where he learns to trust only what his eyes can verify in the wild hills, free from the dogma of traditional schooling. By 1469, his father secures him an apprenticeship in Florence with Andrea del Verrocchio, whose workshop is a loud, gritty laboratory of engineering as much as art. Here, Leonardo does not merely learn to hold a brush. He casts bronze, grinds chemical pigments, and studies mechanics amidst the heat of the furnaces. He discovers that artistic beauty is constructed through the rigorous laws of physics and mathematics, laying the groundwork for his future as an inventor. The student's evolution culminates around 1475, when Verrocchio asks him to paint a single angel in the corner of a large panel, the baptism of Christ. Leonardo abandons the standard tempera for experimental oil glazes, creating a face of such luminous depth that it makes the master's surrounding work look flat by comparison. It is a humiliating revelation for Verrocchio, who, according to legend, realizes he has been surpassed and vows never to paint again. In 1482, realizing Florence is too crowded with talent, he targets a new patron, Ludovico Sforza, the Duke of Milan. He sends a letter that acts as a calculated resume, listing 9 categories of military engineering, from portable bridges to armored cars, before mentioning painting as a mere footnote. He markets himself not as an artist, but as a master of war, appealing directly to the Duke's military ambitions. Yet, Ludovico Sforza saw less use for Leonardo's tanks than for his talents as a musician and producer of court pageants. The man who pitched himself as a military architect was ultimately hired to entertain, designing stage sets instead of fortifications while his blueprints for revolution gathered dust. He spends years dissecting horses to create the Gran Cavallo, a 24-foot monument intended to be the largest equestrian statue in history. He completes the massive clay model, but in a cruel twist of fate, the 80 tons of bronze required for casting are diverted to make cannons for the defense of the city. When the French invade Milan in 1499, the bronze is gone, and his clay masterpiece is destroyed by archers using it for target practice. Amidst the delays of the horse project, the Duke commissions him in 1495 to paint the Last Supper in the refectory of Santa Maria delle Grazie. Leonardo faces a daunting challenge. The wall is huge, the room is damp, and the traditional fresco method requires rapid execution on wet plaster. He knows his perfectionist process cannot work with a medium that dries in hours, setting up a collision between his genius and the chemistry of art. He ignores the convention of painting the apostles in a quiet row, focusing instead on the psychological explosion following Jesus' words, "One of you will betray me." He groups the 12 men into 4 interconnected clusters of 3, creating a rhythmic wave of shock, denial, and anger that flows outward from the center. It is a revolutionary shift, prioritizing human emotion and narrative drama over static religious iconography. To control this emotional chaos, he hammers a nail into the plaster at Christ's right temple, using it as the vanishing point for the entire room's perspective. Every beam in the painted ceiling and every line on the table converges on this single spot, subconsciously forcing the viewer's eye back to the calm face of Jesus. He uses rigorous mathematics to anchor the spiritual weight of the scene, ensuring the geometry serves the story. However, his refusal to be rushed leads him to paint on dry plaster with an experimental oil tempera mix, a decision that proves fatal. The technique allows him to make changes over months, but the paint fails to bond with the wall and begins to flake away almost immediately. He achieves a masterpiece of psychological realism, but his technical gamble means it begins to die the moment it is finished. In 1502, seeking a patron who values engineering over art, Leonardo enters the service of Cesare Borgia, the illegitimate son of the Pope and the most ruthless commander in Italy. Borgia issues him a military patent identifying him as his architect and general engineer, a document that grants him absolute authority to inspect and modify any fortress in the Romagna region. Leonardo steps into a world where his value is no longer measured by beauty, but by his ability to secure power. To defend the city of Imola, he creates something the world has never seen: an iconographic map that abandons artistic perspective for a strictly top-down, satellite-like view. He paces the streets with a compass and odometer, measuring every angle to produce a grid that allows Borgia to coordinate artillery fire with mathematical precision. This is a revolution in cartography, turning the landscape itself into a readable, tactical weapon. Working alongside the astute diplomat Niccolò Machiavelli, Leonardo applies his knowledge of physics to the machinery of war. He designs portable bridges that interlock without nails, for rapid troop movements, and sketches angled fortress walls calculated to deflect cannonballs. For a brief, intense period, the man who buys birds just to set them free becomes the technical architect of a brutal conquest. However, the violence of Borgia's methods, including the treacherous execution of his own captains at Senigallia, begins to horrify the solitary artist. Leonardo realizes that his genius is being used to facilitate slaughter for a tyrant who views human life as a mere variable in a power equation. In early 1503, risking the warlord's wrath, he quietly abandons his post and flees the camp, choosing uncertainty over complicity. Safe in Florence, he retreats from the noise of war into the silence of a new commission, a portrait of Lisa Gherardini, the wife of a silk merchant. Instead of a standard likeness, he begins a scientific investigation into optics and psychology, applying sfumato, layers of glaze mere microns thick, to blur the lines between the figure and the atmosphere. He will never deliver the painting to the merchant, keeping it instead as a lifelong companion and a testament to the peace he could not find on the battlefield. As his interest shifts from the canvas to the machinery of life, he seeks to understand the very mechanics of mortality. In the winter of 1507, Leonardo waits by the bedside of a centenarian at a Florentine hospital to witness a sweet death. When the old man passes without pain, Leonardo performs an immediate dissection, discovering withered arteries, the first diagnosis of arteriosclerosis, and confirming that the human body obeys the same physical laws of erosion as the earth itself. His scalpel delves deeper, challenging the ancient medical dogma that the heart is merely a furnace for the soul. He identifies it instead as a muscle of immense strength, mapping the 4 chambers and valves with the precision of a military engineer. He realizes the heart is a pump, a complex machine that drives the entire system. a concept that contradicts 1,000 years of accepted science. To prove how this pump functions, he constructs a glass model of the aortic valve and circulates water filled with grass seeds to visualize the flow. He observes that the fluid creates perfect vortices, swirling eddies, that push the valve shut from the sides. Alone in his study, he witnesses a mechanism of fluid dynamics that will not be fully understood for another 4 centuries. However, when he moves to the Vatican in 1513, this profound knowledge remains locked in his private journals. He finds himself isolated in Rome, an aging master overshadowed by the celebrity of Raphael and Michelangelo, who are busy painting the Pope's walls. The tragedy is that while Leonardo has unlocked the secrets of the human body, his refusal to publish means these discoveries will be lost to medicine for generations. In 1516, King Francis I extends a lifeline to the unappreciated master, a manor in the Loire Valley, and a generous stipend, asking nothing in return but Leonardo's presence. The 64-year-old packs his massive collection of notebooks and 3 canvases, including the Mona Lisa, onto mules for a treacherous final journey across the Alps. He leaves Italy forever, carrying the sum of his intellectual life into exile to ensure its survival before time runs out. Settled at the Château du Clos-Lucé, he is honored with the title Premier Painter, Engineer, and Architect to the King, though his only true duty is to converse with the young monarch. Even after a stroke paralyzes his right hand, he continues to work with his left, applying the final, microscopic glazes to the Mona Lisa. The painting becomes the ultimate synthesis of his existence, a fusion of anatomical precision, geological depth, and the psychology of the human soul that he refuses to part with. On May 2, 1519, the quest for universal understanding comes to an end. Leonardo dies at age 67, leaving his scientific manuscripts to a student, a decision that tragically ensures his medical breakthroughs will remain lost to the world for centuries. However, his legacy survives through his art, standing as eternal proof that the walls between science and beauty were never really there.